stars shine bright. There's a tale of Jerry and his cowboy fight. CeeDee catching passes, dancing in the zone. But Jerry's got his wallet and it's tight to the bone. Oh, Jerry, can't you see? The boy's got the hands. He's running, catching dreams. Won't you play the man? Out there on the field, he's giving all he can. Cowboys need him playing. Jerry, won't you play the man? From practice fields to glory, under endless skies, CeeDee's working hard. See the fire in his eyes. While Jerry's in his office, counting Cowboys gold. CeeDee's out there proving he's worth more than he's told. Oh, Jerry, can't you see? The boy's got the hands. He's running, catching dreams. Won't you play the man? Out there on the field, he's giving all he can. Cowboys need him playing. Jerry, won't you play the man?
Hello, welcome in to the latest edition of the One Star Cowboys podcast. I'm Kevin Turner, joined by Father John Machota, Saad Youssef, Kent Garrison. Saad and John, welcome back to Texas, boys. Your California fun trip is over.
It's bittersweet, good times out there, good memories, great weather, but I'm kind of happy to be home.
Yeah, as a guy, I spent the weekend in Denver to enjoy some nice cool air while it's 107 here. So I did get to kind of fake like I was you guys for a couple days. But you guys, it's not all fun and games. You guys are out there working every day. You can see it if you follow them on their accounts. Saad and John, follow them on. I'm not going to be the guy that calls it X. It's Twitter to me, and it will always be Twitter. Make sure you're following them, all the content, and the One Star Cowboys podcast will continue to have more episodes per week as we move closer to the season. We've been getting a lot of questions and things like that. Are you guys still doing the podcast? It's just no longer about them Cowboys. It's the One Star Cowboys podcast now. So you know that if you're listening, but if you're new and you hear that, just for some clarification. We had a lot to talk about today. We have a final preseason game. We have an injury to discuss. And, general Cowboys chaos as usual. I guess we probably should discuss the Deron Bland thing before we get into what happened in preseason game 3, because that's the one that's going to have some ramifications in the regular season, a little more than I think than what we might have saw yesterday at AT&T Stadium. 6 to 8 weeks is the report. Is just something that has this been going on for a little bit? Has he had a bit of a problem and for a little bit that we just didn't? I don't know. I guess it was news to me. So what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so I was sitting there in the press box just being miserable because Florida State was playing awful.
I thought about you.
So I'm sitting there trying to just cope with reevaluating my life. And I get this message from the Cowboys saying that Deron Bland experienced foot discomfort. So this would have been last Wednesday in Oxnard. And so it must have been after a practice, experienced some foot discomfort. Wednesday would have been the last practice that we were available for. It would have been the day after the practice facility was burned down. No, it really didn't, but there was a fire the day before. Micah left a pita in the microwave. No, that's not what happened either. But so they said subsequent imaging revealed a stress fracture in his foot, and he will undergo surgery to repair the injury and is currently projected to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And in typical Jerry Jones fashion, as soon as he gets a chance to talk about this, he downplays that 6 to 8 weeks. And it seems like Jerry's more on the side of Deron Bland missing, like, let's say the first 4 games, because if it was going to be, now it is 6 to 8 weeks from when he has a surgery, which I imagine would probably be, Sunday, Monday type thing like that. So it's not like they play a game this weekend, so they wouldn't play till the following week. So it wouldn't I don't think that anybody expects him to miss 4 to 6 games, but let's say it was that. that would probably bring him back, around, maybe after the bye or maybe against Detroit. But right now, I would say it seems like it's a decent bet that he'll miss the opener against the Browns, week 2 against the Saints, week 3 against the Ravens, and then week 4 against the Giants, bringing him back in week 5, Sunday Night Football at Pittsburgh. I think that would be a decent bet, as just from not just what Jerry had to say, but other things that I've heard about it, because there's, depending on who you talk to, it does sound like it's not super significant, but obviously it's enough for him to have a, medical procedure. The one thing though that they do have is that Kalen Carson, the rookie corner, has performed well in training camp. And so now you got to pretty much throw him to the wolves. Jerry made it pretty clear after the game that he's not going to be looking for any outside help at corner. And they have thrown, Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland out there in previous seasons, Jordan Lewis, and they've had some success with corners playing right away. And so I think their hope right now is that Kalen Carson can do the same.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that pretty much is everything on that. I don't have really anything to add, but yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be. I think the teams that they're playing early in the season, and they're not playing a bunch of like huge passing teams or anything like that, so it should be manageable.
When you go, I guess I will just move it to the preseason game for a minute here. So you have these guys who are going to be, on the roster bubble, hypothetically, that might get a bit of a player. I mean, what you say about Kalen Carson, I think that's the number one thing, right? They really like him, had a high grade on their draft board on him and all that. He'll play. We've had some success with those guys, right? And Deron Bland is that guy, right? So, but I think like when you go back and look at the game, like you have Andrew Booth getting torched by Simi Fehoko, but Andrew Booth has that NFL experience. Are we talking about Eric Scott possibly, getting a little bit of a lifeline here through this? I mean, how does that play out? Do they go deeper at cornerback on the roster, or do they have enough faith that they can just roll out Trayvon, Jordan, and Kalen Carson and, let's just go see how the first month goes? Or how are they considering the cornerback room, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say, I didn't like Booth's chances before the injury, but maybe that opens him up a possibility just because they'll need depth there. And Eric Scott would be the other one for sure that you already mentioned. But there's also Israel Mukuamu has been, he plays safety. He plays kind of on the inside, but he has had a really good training camp, and he seems to be playing with a ton of confidence. And so maybe he's got good size. Maybe he's a potential another option there. I don't think that they want to do that necessarily, but if they had to, I think he's a possibility. It's kind of interesting because we just haven't really got a chance to see a lot of, I believe if you had Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis, and Trayvon Diggs, you'd be in really good shape at corner. But you just haven't had that. And, Lewis had the foot injury. Diggs had the knee injury, and now this is Bland with the foot, and you just can't get these guys all out in the field at the same time. Also, kind of like last year, when they went into the playoffs last year, that offense was pretty legit, like the offense they had to start the season. But what were you missing? You were missing Diggs. You were missing DeMarvion Overshown because of injuries. And now you start this season, and you're not going to have Deron Bland for the beginning part. And then you don't have Sam Williams is already out for the season. So it's like the defense is kind of taking hits again because there certainly is a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but it's been hard for them to get it all to play together all at the same time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Casey. I'm blank.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, when I look at these guys, like Eric Scott's a guy who I would not want to give up on yet. And I would almost rather keep Eric Scott than Booth at this point. And I just thought it's so hard to understand. Like when that Booth, I thought had a chance. Like I know you don't just evaluate one game. I thought Booth, you had a really good chance to show himself, and you get torched by Simi Fehoko one time. I'm like, there's 2 games in a row where you got torched, and it wasn't even that close. I don't know that this is even worth it. I mean, he was traded for Nation Wright. I mean, it's not like we were expecting him to. But you have like things on this team that are interesting. Like, are we still in a world where CJ Goodwin is just on the roster with that no questions asked?
I mean, I think he'll be on the roster Maybe not on the initial 53, but after they do some maneuvering, I do. Just
Yeah.
but I don't think they look at him as a corner. They look at him more just because of what he does in special teams. So, no, that next guy up right now is going to have to be Eric Scott, or if they think Andrew Booth is a guy that maybe they keep him as well. But I think that Scott is probably the next guy up, because you just look at the rest of the depth chart. Josh DeBerry, Josh Butler. I just don't see, those guys necessarily being ones that are on as high on there as like an Eric Scott. I will say, like, Eric Scott didn't have a great start to training camp, but the last practice, that Wednesday practice when Bland obviously suffered this setback, Scott looked pretty good in the one-on-one drills. I thought it was like one of the better practices I saw him have. So I think they have confidence in him too as well. So there's that, but then there's also the fact of, if like Kalen Carson, it didn't look like, he was up for the challenge, or if there was another injury, that's when your hand's forced and you got to go make a move from a player on another team. You got to add a veteran type player, but I never really got the feel that they were going to bring back Stephon Gilmore. So I know people talk about that, but like, this team was going real cheap, and all we've seen from their additions are very, very cheap additions. So I don't think Stephon Gilmore was ever a real possibility to return. I think they wanted to see, hey, we got Diggs, we got Bland, we got Jordan Lewis. This is a good. Now we got this Kalen Carson kid on the rise. Like, man, we're good at corner. And then now the injury. So I think that they throw Carson out there, and as long as he's at least solid, that's who they'll roll with.
Yeah, and I think also, you don't know exactly how long DaRon Bland's going to be out, and there's going to be a lot of different circumstances, I think, with his return too. Like, I know John kind of listed out the games, but that bye week is going to be pretty close. Do you want to buy him the extra week if it's getting there? If he is ready to go after 4 games, do you bring him back on the field in Pittsburgh, given what we know about that field and everything there? Or do you wait an extra week and bring him back home against Detroit? So I think, I guess I was a little surprised by how quickly and firmly Jerry said that they wouldn't even consider looking at any outside options. Again, I don't think I expected them to go out and get a top 3 corner from another roster. I mean, there's a reason those guys are going to get cut when they do, but we'll kind of see where everything falls once they cut the rosters. I mean, Keemon Hall, I kind of wish that he played in that preseason game, in that preseason finale, because he had a good game the week before. He's been solid in practices. And I think he's a candidate to be on the practice squad, but I don't think that, he'd be the answer at corner.
The last preseason game, obviously the first home game, that gives us Jerry Jones after the game, a little media scrum. Was there anything that you took out of that, or was it pretty casual? Did you sense any mood? We got contracts we got to get done in the next 2 weeks too. Like, there's kind of a lot on your mind with roster cuts Tuesday by 3 p.m. being done, and then it'd be nice if you got a contract or 2 signed. That would be cool.
Well, I'll say this. When I said to him, I asked him on his thoughts on Bland being out for an extended period of time, and he corrected me and said that he's not going to be out for an extended period of time. So I want to know, what is your guys' definition of an extended period of time? Because some people say any period greater than 30 calendar days. So this would be longer than 30 calendar days. 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. The team released 6 to 8 weeks. That to me is an extended period of time. Is an extended period of time to you guys something different?
When he sees 6 to 8, he thinks in his head 4 to 6, which is really 4 in his head. So yeah, 30 days.
Yeah, and also I think when he sees 6 to 8, I think in this case it might be a little bit more of a gray area, only because, like you said, John, those 6 weeks also count 2 weeks before the season. So if you're looking at it as 4 missed games, maybe you don't look at the 4 games as an extended thing, as opposed to if it was 6 to 8 weeks in the middle of the season. Now you're looking at missing like half the season. So maybe that's what he's kind of going at.
Yeah, and the bye week is week 7, so if things did go poorly in the recovery, like worst case scenario, you could kind of use that week as well. It's just extended period. It's interesting. I always think like several. Do we know what several is? Several is 2. More than 2.
Yeah.
So like extended period. Yeah, I don't know. Like to me in football, I kind of think more than 2 weeks. That's an extended period of time. That's how I think maybe, but I don't know.
So I would say, when you going back to Jerry though after the game, I'd say the thing that I found most interesting is this is the least he's wanted to talk about CeeDee Lamb, and I found that interesting because usually he's open to talk a little bit about it, and hasn't been where I felt like he almost was like uncomfortable talking about it. And I think to some people you might take that as, oh yeah, he's angry or whatever like that. To me, I took it as, I bet you this thing's a lot closer than people think. Like, I still think this gets done before week 1. And so I found that a little interesting from him. I would say the other thing is that there was a little walk-off period, and he was asked about Mike McCarthy coaching in the final year of his deal. And the way he was talking was like how Jerry has talked in the past about basically it just being like one of those things of like, well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't think it's going to put any extra pressure on Mike. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, all this other stuff. So I followed up with, are you the type of person that thinks that people perform their best with their back against the wall? Because it's not like it's just Mike. It's most of that coaching staff, 1 year deal. There's potentially Dak and several players on the team, they're in 1 year's deal, and he's absolutely jumped right and goes, oh, absolutely, I do. And it's very clear that that's what this season is about. When his definition of all in is that there can be major change. There's so much on this season that there can be major changes when the season's over. And when he was talking about that, he brought up the Green Bay game again. So that's now the third time this offseason, unprompted, he's brought up the Green Bay game being fresh on his mind. So that has not been lost on him. So I would say those things kind of stood out. One other one probably would be the fact of he really doesn't think that there's any other positions that they have to add now that they added Linval Joseph. He had talked before the Raiders game about how they needed another big body in the middle. And I think adding Joseph is kind of what he meant there. And so he basically said that unless there's something that they are not predicting right now happens, he doesn't see them going to try and make another move to get another player off another team, which when he says that, I think naturally the first thing you go to is, so you're cool with these running backs, and apparently they are.
Yeah, the guys that they've added, Carl Lawson, Jordan Phillips was a trade, and we'll see what happens there. And then Linval Joseph. What's kind of amazing is the Cowboys actually might have saved money by getting these guys when they've got them. But it's like, I think fans just want them to sign these guys when every other team is signing these guys, Like, it's very, like, when free agency happens and nothing happens for you year after year while everyone else, especially the Eagles, that's the one that really jumps out at you. It's like, man, if you just do it then the fans would be mad. But it might be the savvy thing, because what they've done to get Carl Lawson, who I thought looked pretty good in the game, and to get Linval Joseph, we don't know if Linval Joseph is going to help you or not, but it's a position that we knew we needed help at, and you kind of trust the whole Mike Zimmer thing. And you just kind of hope that works. Like, these are all names that we've talked about for years, and I think fans are just like, you did it now, thank you. But
right, and Linval Joseph, you can't count on him for a full season. He hasn't played a full season in 3 years. So the last 2 years, we're talking 7-8 games. I don't know why you'd be expecting much more than that. But I feel like if the combo of Linval Joseph and Jordan Phillips can produce anywhere near the level of, let's say, a Jonathan Hankins, then at least you replace that loss there, and you look at your defensive tackle room as, it looks on paper to be similar to last year, but you're also hoping that your first round pick, Mozzie Smith, takes a step. Now, I can't promise that's going to happen. That seems like a little bit of wishful thinking. I think he'll be better than he was last year. I don't know if it'll be significant enough to where it's like a game-changing move. I still think they're weak at defensive tackle, but at least there you can see. The running back thing is a little bit different for me, because I think you're really counting a lot on Rico Dowdle to really be your guy. He has the highest upside, I feel, of that group, and that might be asking a lot there. So I don't know. Boston Scott just got let go. Maybe he's an option.
Yeah, and also I think, to your point, KT, I think it's when they talk about player acquisition period being a year-round thing, I think fans do look at the free agency part, and I think there's some justification there too. I'm not defending the Cowboys' position on free agency or anything, but we saw this last year too. They made the trades for Cooks and Gilmore, outside of that window, outside of that free agency window. A few years back, this is a little different because Tyron Smith went down, but Jason Peters was signed right before the season. Again, I understand Tyron's injury was the reason for that, but I'm curious to see how it all kind of comes together, just from a standpoint of production and health as well, because Joseph is an older guy who hasn't played a full season, but he does know Mike Zimmer and all that stuff. So we'll see how that results. But I still don't think that signing Joseph or Jordan Phillips really takes the spotlight off of Mozzie any more than it was. I mean, I still think Mozzie Smith still has to take the next step.
And to be fair, I guess the Carl Lawson thing probably doesn't happen without Sam Williams.
Right.
If Sam Williams doesn't get hurt, there probably is no Carl. I guess I was in a roundabout way getting to a point of where I was almost giving the Cowboys front office some credit. And I do that sometimes. Yeah, right. We can do that sometimes. Should we move on to the Trey Lance experience?
I think we should, because when you asked me about Jerry, that would be the other highlights, but I figured that would be a separate topic because Jerry obviously had thoughts on that as well. So, yeah, let's get into that.
I mean, you look at the line, 5 interceptions, not good. You watch the game. I don't know. I didn't feel like I watched a guy who threw 5 interceptions. I thought there were, 2 or 3 really bad ones. But I kind of, in terms of a guy playing quarterback and throw out the 2 really bad mistakes, and there's a couple more, I guess, but I did see, I kind of felt he was more comfortable again, and you see the highlights, and we now know he's going to make the roster, and it's not good, and it's not good enough to be on a roster right now, probably, but it will be here. It's such a confusing thing. I don't even know how to think about him. Even I saw, reading your story and McCarthy, and I think he just needs to keep playing. I think he'll play in the league for a long time. I don't know if that's lip service from McCarthy. I don't think McCarthy does a lot of lip service, too often.
But you have to think that he would be on a team. You don't really think that if they cut him, that he's just on the streets.
Yeah, there are teams like the Raiders who have nobody. Yeah, so sure.
Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, just because you're on a team, it doesn't mean like you should be on an NFL roster.
Oh, I think there's even a possibility that there's a team out there that has good quarterback play that would bring him on as kind of a, I'm just saying if he's cut and he's just free out there to sign. I don't think the rest of the league is just all like, oh yeah, this is absolutely this isn't going to work. I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks that, again, I'm not talking about they're bringing him in to be the backup or starter. I'm just saying that, there's Ben DiNucci's out there that keep coming back to the NFL that, do you think he's better than Trey Lance? Would you rather have Ben DiNucci on your roster and Trey Lance? Like, Trey Lance is going to be on a roster is what I'm saying.
Absolutely not. And it's like the whole thing of where I do kind of think, a lot of this might be on him, but I do think he kind of got a raw deal in San Francisco, just getting hurt on a wet field that day. It was a weird game. He had more, passing attempts in this preseason than he had as a 49er. And it's like he just needs to. We knew this when he was drafted number 3 overall. This guy needs to play. We need more snaps out of him, because he didn't have a lot going into it. So I don't know. It's just weird if you're. I guess this is where I think there's things that are going to happen on this Cowboys roster where I just kind of go, man, is this the best roster that you can have? In a quote unquote, and I know we did the all in thing or whatever. See, I don't know, man. I think some guys get free passes. I think it's insane that Zeke didn't have to play a snap in the preseason. I still think it's kind of wild that CJ Goodwin is just on the team. As a special teams guy, he's Bill Bates. And maybe he is.
Those are different.
I don't know.
Those are different. Those are different. I would say you can look towards Jerry, on the Trey Lance, Zeke things possibly. But with CJ Goodwin, that's because the coaching staff wants him on the team because of what he brings on special teams. Mm-hmm. The special teams coach absolutely wants him on the team. And I think that's what fans and what I think people ultimately want is that you're putting out the best team that, your coaches are like, these are our best. We're not being forced to play players that owners or general managers want us to play that. Let's leave this up to the coaches to do that. And so it'll be interesting to watch the Zeke thing for sure. With Lance, obviously you can say, yeah, you're better off on this roster having another running back. Boston Scott helps this team more this year than having Trey Lance on this roster, or another said running back that gets released by another team. Yes, I would say that was probably going to bring you more value for this year. But I also get that the quarterback position is so valuable that if you think that you have a guy that you could potentially turn into a starter, I can see why you would want to keep him around. And they apparently still think that. And there were plays throughout the preseason and again Saturday against the Chargers where, you can see that from Trey Lance. The obvious one, without question, is how effortlessly he can turn that 46-yard run touchdown like crazy. Like that, there's not a lot of guys that are doing that from the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So that stands out the most. But he had a handful of throws that are like, oh yeah, no, those are quality throws. The John Stevens one down the middle that Stevens fumbled. He had one up the right sideline to Deontay Burnett that should have been a touchdown. I mean, it was a great ball. And honestly, even on that first series, I think he only had one incompletion, and he had a really nice throw to Tyron Billy Johnson on the left sideline. Like he has made plays where I go, oh yeah, I can see why people think, but there just haven't been enough of them. He's been too inconsistent. The thing about the interceptions with him is it's just wild to me because he's not really an interceptions guy. He was never in college. I think he only threw 2 picks his entire time in college. And watching every training camp practice, like I can't think of a time when I didn't watch the offense. I mean, aside from a couple of one-on-ones with like Mozzie and stuff on the other end of the field, I always watched Lance. And he, if anything, would throw the ball too high or too far to where he's not giving his receiver a chance, but he's also not turning the ball. Like he just doesn't throw a lot of turnover-worthy throws. And so for him to have 5 in one game was kind of stunning to me because that really hasn't been his thing.
And 5 to guys that probably won't be in the league and shouldn't be in the league. You know, that
well,
was
the first two, Tony Jefferson absolutely deserves to be in the NFL. Yeah. He's a good player. Like I don't know why he was even playing throughout that entire game. And the
this is a divisional game and he threw 5 picks, so you're like, okay, but the third preseason game?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's not great. It's not great, but I'm saying there are things that he shows you that where you're like, yeah, that brings you some really good. I'm just using the Cowboys as an example without naming any names. They've had plenty of, number 3 quarterbacks who are just like, so what's the ceiling here? On your best day, you'll be a backup, I think with the right coaching, I mean, Trey Lance is only 24. Like, I'm not sitting here saying right now that he'll never be able to start in the NFL. I don't know that.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's kind of what McCarthy said afterwards. Let's let Sod go. I mean, Sod's got a lot here.
No, well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but I'll try to articulate it. But I feel like Trey Lance, could be a better starter in the NFL than a backup, if that makes sense. Because I feel like you have to commit to a guy like Trey Lance the way that the Ravens have done with Lamar Jackson. Like you have to change your offense. Like Cooper Rush is a better backup because he can come in a pinch for Dak and win a few games. But I feel like if you're going to have Trey Lance as your starting quarterback, it's not just the existing status quo. Like you have to change a lot because like John said, I think yeah, he had a few good throws and like the one to Tyron Billy Johnson and John Stevenson, that's great. But his best play was that 46-yard touchdown run. And that play is not in the Cowboys offense for Dak Prescott. Like he's not doing that on a routine basis, or he's not doing it enough as much as Trey Lance would. So that's why this whole thing can get a little weird because I feel like he's not a great backup, but he might have a chance as a starter, but you can't really get that chance as a starter at this point in his career unless you show that you can be a backup. So it's this really confusing mess because I feel like the only way that Lance can really be successful is if he has the entire offense tailored to him. And the Cowboys just aren't doing that right now. So, nor should they, by the way.
No,
so maybe he needs this season with the Renegades.
I had someone text me earlier in the league that I really admire and said, I'm watching the Lance film and it's bad. Use the word bad twice. So, I don't know,
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like, are you going to have him run through each progression the way that a Dak Prescott or Tom Brady or those kind of guys are expected to? He's going to be at least half a second late every single time. And so you can't run that same offense with Trey Lance at quarterback. So if he's going to be your quarterback, a lot of other things have to change aside from just him being your starter.
And it makes sense too. I mean, we'd heard the reports, in San Francisco. Maybe they liked him, they got him in there. And maybe they didn't like the way some practices were going. They really got to know him, other than the guy you traded up for, and then he got hurt. And then, you go to Kyle Shanahan going, well, look, all I really need is Brock Purdy to put the ball where he puts, where he can put the receivers in a place to go get some yards after the catch. And I don't know, there's little things like that. Like, they got frustrated with him in San Francisco. We heard all those stories about it. So either way, he's on this roster for money reasons. He's on this roster because of, a potential need at that position, potentially. And the other thing, can I just say, throw your hand up real quick? So go ahead, actually.
Just one more thing on this situation is it feels like it has not played in Jerry's favor when it comes to the Dak negotiation, this Lance thing.
Well, that was
Lance
foolish if he ever thought it was going to. He was foolish if he ever
right,
thought
but it
that
just
was gonna-
now Dak has more ammo than ever because it's pretty clear that he's got a long way to go if the plan is to move on from Dak and hand the keys over to Trey Lance.
The very first day in Oxnard, I turned to John when we were watching practice, and I told John, and I said, I was like, the best thing for Dak's contract negotiations is just to have Trey Lance run 7-on-7 right after Dak does in practice, because that is the best negotiation tactic that Dak could have is Trey Lance right after Dak, because it's not even in the same breath.
So Jerry hasn't said this publicly, and I haven't been told this by anybody within the organization. These are just my beliefs off of the actions I've seen. I don't think anything Trey Lance does affects Dak Prescott. I mean, well, I shouldn't say anything because obviously if he balled out, it would be like, wow, okay. But I'm saying the negative side of it, I don't think it affects it because I really do. I do think it's this basic. Jerry, if Dak was to go to Jerry and be like, I'm going to take a really team-friendly deal, then the contract's done right now. But Dak wants to get paid, reset that market. Let's say whatever it is. We don't know the number for sure. Let's say it's 55. Let's say it's 60, whatever. It's going to reset the market, highest paid quarterback. Jerry is probably fine with doing that after he sees Dak go through this season and see if they can go and he can elevate them in January. And if he can't, that's where I think that Jerry is fine with moving on and finding the next quarterback. And that doesn't mean it has to be Trey Lance. It can be somebody that's not even on this team. It could be somebody they draft. It could be somebody they make a move for. I think that the Dak thing is completely separate with Jerry. I really do. Like, I do think that he wants to see him, hey, you want the 55-60? I'm willing to, hey, we haven't paid anybody else. We've set the money aside. We can pay you. We can pay Mike. We can pay CD. I need to see you elevate us in January. I really do believe that's what Jerry wants to see. Why else would he keep bringing up the Green Bay game? Is that all just on Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff? That's not on the players or anything like that either. So that's the way. That's why I don't think that it is necessarily like a Trey Lance thing, like at all, to be honest. And to use a 4th round pick to roll the dice on the potential that maybe Trey Lance is something with your coach who is a quarterback guy who you feel strongly can develop a quarterback, whether that works out or not. I'm just saying, like, you can criticize the Cowboys for a lot of things. I don't think it's that bad of a risk to take to go after and gamble a 4th round pick to try to get Trey Lance. It's not the best move, but like anybody trying to act like this is just like, this is just another awful, like, we're going to remember. Nobody's going to be writing about this like 10 years from now about the worst. Nobody's going to be writing about this with Roy Williams and Joey Galloway 10 years from now. At least not people that are being honest.
Do you want to see the Dak Prescott 2016 preseason stats? Because that actually is a case of a guy maybe putting a little pressure on, the starter at the time. At LA, 10 of 12, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. Versus Miami, 12 of 15, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. At Seattle, let's see, 17 of 23, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. So no interceptions.
I'm not, and let me be very clear when I say what I'm about to say. There is no question Dak Prescott is a much better quarterback than Trey Lance. This is not even up for debate. But like when Dak stepped in on those games that you're talking about, like he was running with real ones though. Mm-hmm. He was throwing passes to Terrence Williams and Des Bryant. I just, Tony goes down, he's running with Zeke, they're running with the one. I'm just saying, like, there is a little bit to do apples to apples on that whole thing. Now, of course, he was probably going against better competition. When Trey Lance is going in the 3rd and 4th quarter, he's playing against guys on the Rams and Raiders and Chargers that aren't making any NFL teams. They're practice squad guys. So, I mean, but there needs to be some context a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I think, when you kind of look at the two situations, I remember back in 2016, it wasn't Dak versus Romo. It was Dak versus Jameel Showers during training camp. And it was like, can he beat out Jameel Showers? And so I think I think there are two different situations, but yeah, I mean, Trey Lance, for as young as he is and all that stuff that keeps getting said, I do think that he does need to show a little bit more than he did in the preseason, but I don't think that it's not going to be this catastrophic move no matter what, because it's a 4th round pick. I don't even think it's top 3 most catastrophic moves just on the quarterback position by Jerry Jones. I mean, this is a guy that gave Chad Hutchinson a 7-year contract after he hadn't played football for 5 years. Traded a 3rd round pick for Drew Henson. Wanted Paxton Lynch and said that was the guy in the 2016 draft with the highest upside of anybody in the 2016 draft, of any quarterback. Like, that's 3 quarterback evaluations right there that are already worse than Trey Lance. So,
and 4th round picks, I'm telling you, like, they've had a lot of success with the 4th round picks. Obviously, none bigger than Dak Prescott. Finding Jake Ferguson in the 4th round, Tony Pollard. There's plenty of those. There's a lot of Golstons. There's a lot of Fahokos. There's Charles Tappers. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that 4th round pick, Ryan Switzer's, there's no 4th round pick guarantee, whatever. But I also think that when you haven't had to use a 1 on a quarterback since Troy Aikman, and you found your last 2 quarterbacks in the 4th round as an undrafted rookie free agent in Tony Romo, let's not act like, that this is just a team that doesn't know how to identify a quarterback. So even though you took the chance, and it probably isn't going to work out with Trey Lance, like, I don't think it's that bad of an idea to kick the tires on something like that. Now, I get, like Jerry said, that, hey, this was on me when I was on the phone. I didn't whatever. I find it hard to believe that Jerry never at all had talked to Will or anybody about, hey, what did you think about Lance coming out of the draft? If he didn't do that, then that's a foolish move on his part, and he shouldn't have done that. I find it very hard to believe that he didn't consult with anybody and just goes, yeah, I remember his name. Yeah, 4th round pick. We need leverage for Dak. If he did that, awful move. But as long as he, at least in some part of this, talk to Will, talk to some scouts about, hey, what was our eval on him when he was coming out of the draft? I have no problem with them risking a 4th round pick on, hey, and it didn't work out. Guess what? Move on. It didn't work out with Charles Tapper, and it doesn't look like it's working out with a lot of the recent 4th round picks either.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like I said, like John said, I think Jerry consulting with others to me is a big thing in this, because I don't really trust his eye for quarterbacks, but there are people in the organization that do know what they're doing. Back then, it was Sean Payton with Tony Romo. I mean, that was Sean Payton's guy. They fell into Dak Prescott in some way in the 4th round, despite Jerry wanting Connor Cook or Paxton Lynch. But if he did,
but much like Sean, though, there were people in the building.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, top on the list, a lot of people will say, would be Wade Wilson, the quarterback's coach, Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, and even Jason Garrett liked a lot of things about him too. So there were a lot of
Jason
people
and Scott,
yeah, there were a lot of people that that liked it as well. It wasn't just throwing darts at a board like, hey, we couldn't get Cook, so we need a quarterback, and we got a 2nd, 4th round pick. Let's just throw a dart. Like, there were people in the building that really liked him a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it's important that he consulted other people, because I don't trust Jerry necessarily to get the quarterback, but I do trust the organization as a whole.
I have one kind of little hypothetical I want to throw out at you guys before we move on to some of these kind of roster cuts and positions and things like that before the deadline is Tuesday. So we're going to do an episode that we always do. If you've been following us on the old podcast, we'll continue that. It's where we kind of do our season predictions, and we we'll predict the division winners, how many games the Cowboys are going to win, Super Bowl, Rookie of the Year, Coach, all the stuff, Thanksgiving halftime show headliner, Super Bowl halftime show headliner. We're going to do all that stuff. We'll have that episode coming out shortly. I would say probably within the next week.
Before week 1, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be before week 1. But while we're on this, and this will kind of end the Trey Lance thing. You don't have to say and spoil how many games you think the Cowboys are going to win this year with Dak Prescott at quarterback. How many games do the Cowboys win with Cooper Rush at quarterback? How many games do the Cowboys win this year with Trey Lance at quarterback? I mean, what is this off the top of your head? Does the tier level go from 12 to 7 to 4? Well, what is it?
I don't think this is a 12-win team at all. So I would not. 12 is not even in my vocab. Okay. I think if they won 10, I think they would be. I think that they're a 9 to 10 win team with Dak. I think with Cooper Rush, it's probably closer to maybe 6 or 7, and with Lance, you're probably at 3 to 5. But a lot of that also goes to, if you take 2020 out of the picture, when there's been chaos, Mike McCarthy's been pretty good. And so that's the only reason why I'm saying that I wouldn't go. Just I know there's people that probably watch these preseason games and go, oh, with Lance, they wouldn't win a game. No, they would win some games. They would have a way different game plan. Honestly, he probably wouldn't even be throwing as much. He'd probably be running it more, and they'd probably be leaning more on the defense. It'd be a very conservative game plan. But Mike McCarthy has been in this league long enough and has won a lot of games that he would come up with some type of a game plan to keep them in a bunch of games where obviously it wouldn't be anywhere close to winning the division or making the playoffs. But I do think that they might be able to win three to 5 games with Lance.
Okay. Saad?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. That's exactly what I would say.
But pretty clear tier drop off though. And this is where like
hold up.
Yeah.
Let's give it some context. Yeah. I'm at probably 5 to 8 games with any of those Raiders quarterbacks. You think Aiden O'Connell's coming in here winning 9-10 games?
I do not.
Gardner
No,
Minshew?
I do not. I absolutely
Hey,
don't.
I watched a little bit of the Lions Steelers yesterday. What about like Justin Fields or Russell Wilson?
I don't know.
The reason I asked that
closer
is
to the
because-
Cooper Rush level there. I think first of all, I think the Cowboys top out at a 12 win season, like best case scenario.
Yeah,
I think they're
yeah,
12-5.
Yeah.
And I would probably say 11-6 would be my pick for them. So maybe I have a little higher, and I think I'm probably a little lower when you go to Cooper Rush and then Trey Lance even.
Yeah.
I think I dip down to maybe 5 max with Cooper Rush. Seriously. And I know he went 5-0 when Dak was out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it changes things quite a bit.
He's just, to me, Cooper Rush is and I'm not saying he's good as these players, but he is the Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson. Hey, I'm just going to drive this bus. I'm not going to turn the ball over. We got a really good defense. I'm not going to lose the game. You know what I'm saying? I might not make a ton of plays to win a bunch of games. I'm not going to lose this thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to. And he's shown that he can do that. And if this defense is as good as I think it will be with Zimmer, I could see them winning games that way. Obviously not at a Bucs or Ravens Super Bowl winning level like that. I'm not saying that. But there are certain quarterbacks that are like that. They play well for that. I mean, in a way, probably, I don't know, I'd have to look at the stats, but in a way, kind of almost like Rex Grossman when the Bears went to the Super Bowl. Like, it wasn't because of Rex. He just wasn't, he was just solid for them, when he needed to be. The reason I asked about the Russell Wilson Fields thing is because if they were to move on from Dak, that's the type of quarterback that I think that you could be looking at, like that or level
Derek
of quarterback
Carr.
where, it's a guy that had been a starter in the league.
Yeah.
Best years are probably behind him. Not going to be better than Dak, but also Jerry's like, I'm too old to be trying to trade up a bunch of ones that get, whoever, Shador Sanders or whatever,
Falcons are trying to go ahead and trade Kirk Cousins and get the Michael Penix
There you go.
era
There you
going.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wait for Kirk
It's easy.
Cousins to show up. Yeah.
There you
Always
go.
end up there. Okay, so Saad's got a piece up on The Athletic that you can check out. It's kind of final roster projection. I do want to kind of run through this. I got my pen out to do a little math here, and just maybe we can table talk it because cut day is 3 p.m. Tuesday. And, there's always roster maneuvering, so let me get that disclaimer out there just to keep a little gray area involved here. Quarterbacks, we're taking 3, okay? We know that, so we'll just not spend any time talking about that because we spent a lot of Trey Lance talk. We go to running back. Now, Saad, on your list, you got them taking 4, counting Hunter Lipke. That would be Rico, Zeke, and Deuce. I think 4 is the number at running back. Do you agree, John?
Yeah, I do. And I also want to say that, I'm trying to think how I want to word this. Okay. I don't know that they won't have their pick of all those backs, even the ones that are let go. I mean, like when you talk about roster cut downs, like off the top of your head, like how many players have they cut? So we're going to live in this world where they can only keep 40 guys. So forget 53. We're going to even make it even tighter.
Yeah, let's do it.
How many guys have they really even lost? I can think of John Ridgeway. Like most of the guys that they want, they cut them. Everybody goes through the process. They go and add a bunch of them right back to the practice squad. Like there's not many of them that get away where you're like, damn, they really need that. So I'm just saying, like when you bring up running back, like whether they keep Malik Davis or not, like I could see a world where like he comes back or Deuce or Nathaniel Pete or whatever. Like it would not surprise me at all. I think Deuce Vaughn would maybe be intriguing. to maybe some other teams, but also there's a reason he was a late 6th round pick. Every team saw him at Kansas State. Every team had plenty of chances to draft him. So there's even a world that I can see where they were to cut Deuce Vaughn and they still get him back too. They're just, I think a lot of people panic on the roster cut down that they're going to lose like all these good players and stuff. And it's like, that generally doesn't happen,
No, there's no doubt. It's okay. The Royce Freeman thing is involved. I know some people are going to have you're going to see tons of people putting roster projections out and Royce Freeman making. I'm like, Royce Freeman is Zeke to me, and Royce Freeman has bounced around this league for a reason. No one really thinks they need to keep him.
Right.
And who knows? There could be someone on the streets, that's they got their eyes on or something like that. Who knows? Dalvin Cook always comes up. It seems like
he does.
All these names.
I don't think. How could you do Dalvin Cook though with Zeke? I just
That's
think
what I'm saying.
I think you need a running back that is going to do something on special teams.
Zeke and Royce Freeman are the same thing personally.
Yeah.
But so 4 there. Okay, there's up to 7. Let's go to tight ends here. Saad, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, John Stevens Jr. I could see them. Is this crazy that they might go 2 with the possibility of Hunter Lipke taking some tight end snaps? Is that nuts?
I think they like enough about Stevens' upside to not part ways with him. So that's why I think 3 is the number there. But I can't sit here and say, hey, when they make it clear that they're keeping 3 quarterbacks, anything's open, keeping only 2 running backs or 2 tight ends, you can't completely rule any of that out. I just think that those 3 are kind of solid there. I was really looking for Brevin Spanford to step up or Peyton Endershot. And to be honest with you, if you told me to go with a 4th, I might go with Princeton Fan over them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going upside.
Yeah. But Princeton Fan, to me, seems like a player that you certainly can get back.
Yeah.
On the practice squad, so.
Yeah, he's a guy that Dak really likes, too, so.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Sad. I just thought we'd see a little bit more. We go from OTAs, minicamp, to training camp. I just thought we'd see a little bit more from the tight ends,
Yeah, I mean, for Brevin Spanford, I mean, the time that he really only caught my attention all of OTAs was just that fight that he had.
Yeah. That was early.
Yeah, and other than that, I never really felt like there was a whole lot of and I mean,
was that with Kalen Carson?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember it was a DB. Yeah,
I mean,
but yeah, he didn't really catch my attention, and John's the video god, and I don't remember John tweeting a whole lot of Brevin Spanford videos.
I don't think we would talk about him if he didn't get so much money, in the undrafted process. It's a weird thing. I do think they love John Stevens just because Steven's son is John Steven.
That and also when you're standing on the sidelines, he certainly looks the part.
Yeah.
We're like, damn, that's a big dude, and he moves well for being. He's a receiver converted to tight end. I don't know, that ball. I mean, I know he fumbles it, and so it looks like a negative play. But that ball down the middle from Lance last night, I thought, I don't know, that was just a little bit of where I was like, man, there's something there with him, and he is coming back from the knee injury, and he is playing a new position. But I think if you're going to keep 3, he would be the 3rd.
Wide receiver. Saad's got 6 with Flournoy making it. We know the originals. I'll set it up just for our audience here. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, Kavontae Turpin. Flournoy, and I guess maybe we're talking about maybe Cropper maybe on the bubble list. I don't know if anyone else would be. I don't know. We
Billy
have
Johnson.
that other I guess yeah. But Flournoy, to me, it makes sense to keep.
So
they may not go. They may go 5 wide receivers. I don't know.
I'll say this for just myself and evaluating the team in camp and these preseason games and just things that I've heard. I'm trying to think. Okay, so wide receiver, if it is not that 6, that might be the most surprised I'll be of anything that happens. Now, actually, no, I take that back. Safety. I think safety's locked in. We obviously know quarterback's locked in with 3, so I'm gonna say quarterback and safety. I think are the most. But I would put wide receivers. If it's not this 6, that would be the most surprising to me. I just think that it's clear these are the guys. They all aren't the same. They offer a little something different. Flournoy's got good size, and you got some smaller guys with Turpin and Cooks. And obviously, I'm assuming that CD is going to be back. And then Jalen Brooks, I thought Jalen Brooks had a really good camp. He exceeded my expectations. Tolbert continues to go in the right track there. I don't know, man. Like Flournoy, he's shown me enough and being a 6th round pick. I would be very surprised if they let him go.
No, I agree. You go to offensive line. 9 is the magic number. I think to me, that's the number one training camp or preseason revelation is that we got that settled. Tyler Guyton will start at left tackle. Cooper Beebe will start at center. And these questions, just making those go away makes me feel better about this team tenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say also on Saad's list, I would say also that with Chuma being out, I think it just makes sense for an Awesome Richards and Matt Waletzko. You need tackles. So
yeah, and I think that the top 8 are pretty much, in ink. I think you got the 5 starters, and I think Hoffman, Bass, and Richards are 3 that are, you can pretty much count on that. And then it's that last spot where I think you have to go tackle, like John said, without Chuma. Now, if Waletzko or if you like somebody else, but I don't know. But at this point, I think Waletzko looked the best. There was a time. It was deep into camp. We were walking off with McCarthy, and he mentioned that, for Waletzko, it was just about staying healthy. Like, he hasn't been healthy in his career yet. So they like who he is as a player. As long as he's healthy, I think they want to give him a shot.
Yeah. Defensive line. Yeah, and I guess Josh Ball and Nathan Thomas, the other 2 names
Right.
who could be in that mix. But, yeah, I'm with you. Defensive line, Micah, DeMarcus Lawrence, Osa, Mozzie Smith, Marshawn Nealand. There's 5. And then you get to Linval Joseph, Jordan Phillips, Carl Lawson, Chauncey Golston, 9. For a position that we have talked a lot about, both defensive tackle and defensive end, I kind of feel like I don't even have any question marks there in terms of like who gets to make it. I feel like that's set. And it's set because of a couple of moves they made, really 3 moves that they made. But I thought there might be more question marks at the defensive line. To come out of camp with less questions about at least who's on the team, clearly on the offensive line, but on the defensive line, like I don't have a lot of questions as to who gets to make it. Like that's it.
Yeah, the only other one there that's not on that list that I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it. He hasn't really shown anything that makes you think like, oh yeah, you definitely got to have him. But I always, whenever I'm doing these things, I factor in draft slot and for Viliami Foko to be a 4th round pick and for them to move. And this was not this year's draft, but last year's. It would be a little surprising for them to already move on. Also, I would think that within seconds he would be picked up by Washington because he was a guy that Dan Quinn really liked. So, Fehoko would be one that it won't surprise me if he's on the roster just because that I could see them wanting to give him a little bit more. But I mean, there's a lot of similarities there with Golston where it's like, is he a 3 technique defensive tackle or is he another end? If you thought that they were really good ends or you saw enough there, the last thing you're going to do with a young end is progress stop them by bringing in Carl Lawson. They obviously brought in Lawson for a reason because they didn't see enough from those guys for ends. So, the last 2 spots to me, Golston and Fehoko, wouldn't surprise me if both are on. Wouldn't surprise me if one of them isn't. It would surprise me if both of them don't make it. But yeah.
Yeah, and also I think that number 9 spot, if they do only keep 9, I could see 9 or 10 depending on how they value some of the other spots on the roster, especially cornerback, given Duran's situation. But if they do keep 9, anything after 8 is a pick 'em for me. I mean, Golston and Fehoko are the 2 ones that come to mind, but there's a few other names that it would be surprising, but it's just about how you kind of view them. There were times during camp, not late in camp, but earlier in camp, where I talked to some people and they really liked Darrell Johnson, and he was a guy that stuck out to a few people early on. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to be on the roster, but I could see different people making it at the tail end of that list.
Yeah, to me, Fehoko has been kind of underwhelming, but that's again a game we play when we do factor in draft slots and all that stuff, things like that. Linebackers: Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshown, Maris Leufau, Damone Clark. Side, you got Willie Harvey and Buddy Johnson. Slide in there, 6 linebackers. I mean, a lot of when you go to linebacker types, you get special teams in play and things like that.
Yeah, I'll say this was a tough one for me because again, it comes to how many you're keeping. Could be 5, could be 6. And there were some tough ones to leave off of this for me. And like, I think of the last two, I think I even wrote this in the blurb there, is like, I feel like the first 2-3 guys that are going to be left off, like Nick Vigil is a Zimmer guy that I could see making the team. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was somebody that made it. Buddy Johnson, just the game that he had in the preseason finale, and he's at a good camp as well. Willie Harvey had a lot of momentum throughout camp, but then it kind of simmered down a little bit at the end. So, I feel pretty rock solid about those first 4. And then after that, there's some guys that I could see being in consideration for sure.
Did everyone get drunk on the Darius Harris preseason game too?
Darius Harris. Yeah.
I have no issues with any of that. The one thing I'll say, just because we're talking about linebackers, another guy that exceeded my expectations in camp and preseason is Maris Leofau. I mean, I thought that they would get, a solid player, but I thought he'd be what he's doing right now and what we've seen so far. I didn't think we'd see that until next year at this time. And maybe part of me is, I don't know, maybe I went into camp looking at how little they got from last year's draft class, thinking that maybe this would be more of the same. But I do not feel that way about this draft class at all. I feel like there's a lot of contributors here. I mean, you can go right down the list. Guyton, Nealon, Beebe, Leofau, Kalen Carson. I mean, all those guys I can see all contributing as rookies.
Defensive back, 49. This takes us to 49 because we're going to carry 9 right here on Sod's list here. Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, Kalen Carson, Mukwamu, Eric Scott, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell. As John mentioned earlier, safety as good as done right there. There's your 4 safeties. And you can not even talk about it anymore. That's good. Mukwamu absolutely deserves to make it. And I would lean Eric Scott over. It'll be interesting if they go with Andrew Booth. But there's your kind of play with Deron Bland being out. And then your 4 specialists. So,
and I mean, Booth, like you said, like they traded Nahshon Wright for him, and that Nahshon Wright wasn't going to be a guy that was going to make the roster. So Booth had some good moments in preseason. He didn't have a whole lot of good moments in practice. I'll say, he was getting burned a lot. In preseason, that first preseason game he played, I thought he had some really good moments, especially coming up to make tackles and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much that is your first thing that you're looking at from your cornerback, is how well he can tackle. I think pass coverage has to come first. And I mean, he got burnt by Simi Fehoko. He's been getting burned a little bit in practice too. So that's kind of why it wouldn't surprise me if he made it over Eric Scott, because Eric Scott didn't exactly have a lights out camp either. So that 5th cornerback spot right now, I think is up in the air, but I think, that's only for the first few weeks anyways, until Bland comes back.
Yeah. Well, I think that should wrap it up. We'll have roster cuts coming down Tuesday. We will have a lot more content coming on the One Star Cowboys podcast, so make sure you're following that. And feel free to give us a 5-star review. I mean, that would be cool. Even though we are the One Star Cowboys podcast, don't let that confuse you. 5 stars, it could be good. It could make us go international.
We're huge in Brazil right now.
We're getting word that we're huge on Brazil. Huge in Brazil. Australia fans, they're wanting more out of us.
Yeah.
And, guess what? I'll meet you at an Outback Steakhouse, have a Foster's with you, and we can talk Cowboys anytime, Australia. Let's get at me. They hate when you – that's why they hate when you reference Australian stereotypes. I know this. Don't mention the crocodile hunter. They hate it. But we're going to have a lot of stuff. Our big season preview episode, where we have our picks. Always so much fun because we also guest the Thanksgiving halftime show and the Super Bowl halftime show and all that stuff, your division winners. There will be something on the line this year. And that's something that you should stay tuned for. So make sure you're subscribed, just like, follow, do the thing. You can also chat with us 24/7 if you'd like in our Discord that we have set up, the One Star Cowboys podcast Discord. Had some in-game chat going during the final preseason game. It's good for everyone to get in there and share their opinions. We're going to have some options for you guys to jump in the podcast kind of conference call style and come in and fire away some questions or hot takes where it is your platform. We're going to have those opportunities for you as well. So we've got a lot going on. as we are 2 weeks away from getting this season started in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio, where we will have Father John and Saad on the case. So until next time, make sure that you follow us all, if you would, on social media. Let's go ahead and give it out there, John. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on X or Twitter. Sorry, KT. At John Machota, Jon, no H in there, just JON MACHOTA.
He will go viral twice a week. It's like a guaranteed thing with John. It's crazy. Saad, where can they find you?
Also on Twitter at Saad Yusuf 126.
Saad is SAAD.
That's
All
right.
All right, just make sure everyone knows. Kent Garrison, he's doing his thing. Mad About Movies podcast. Keep that going.
Heck yeah.
And it's at Kent Garrison.
It is.
I'm at, yeah. And then you also, Kent producing some of the shows on The Athletic, of course. And I am at KT Fun Tweets. You can find me all the places, whatever. You don't care. At KT Fun Tweets, though, if you'd like to get down on that. And we'll like to interact with you guys. So we got more stuff coming. So just let's keep it going, guys. 2 weeks until the season. Thank you for your coverage in California all month long. It was awesome. And we will see you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast. Okay, recording stop.